Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, based on where you are in the world. My name's Sean, and welcome to Twin Moons. This is the January 24 check-in, first of its type. And after the earlier video that I published last week, which was around balance and moving forward with sovereignty, I wanted to start briefing people on what's happening, what I'm experiencing, what my colleagues in the consciousness and esoteric fields are experiencing, and really to start eliciting a bit of a conversation around that, hoping to get some really thought leadership happening, and really to be able to start a Q&A. One aspect I wanted to brief everybody on was that I'll be relaunching my development program sessions, which are fortnightly sessions on every second Wednesday. Now that's Wednesday in Australia, of course, so if you're in a different time zone, it may well be elsewhere, but it would be a Wednesday at 7:30 to 9:30 Eastern Daylight Savings Time, or Eastern Standard Time when we're not in Daylight Savings, which we are now. Here in Australia, it's a little bit warm. I'm based in Melbourne, and our weather down in Melbourne is like Mercury, hot and cold, four seasons in one day, and subject to great change. But as everyone knows, Australia is suffering under a tremendous amount of energetic attack, and really this is part of the purification process, which is resulting in fires. Now these fires are somewhat are many and varied. To say that it was climate change, well, climate is changing, but it always has. Man-made climate change is a program, and there are many programs underway. But one thing we can be sure of, the different parts of the world will be undertaking purification processes based on what is the common purification method for that part of the world. So here in Australia, we sit dead centre in the middle of a tectonic plate. While we are surrounded by highly tectonically active areas, for instance, New Zealand is bisected by the so-called ring of fire that encircles the Pacific Ocean. North of us in New Guinea and north-west in Indonesia, that is also on the ring of fire, and it represents the cusp between multiple tectonic plates, and so you have tectonic activity there. So any purification is volcanic, and also tectonic movement, earthquakes. Now that can be subsea earthquakes, or it can be land-based earthquakes. Generally in those areas, both. Here in Australia, we are tectonically stable, and we don't have any active volcanoes. So how else is purification to be undertaken? Energetically, that purification will occur and is occurring. Unfortunately, there are many consequences of that, and it would be very blasé of me to say, well, we're just going through a purification and we all need to just cope with it. No, we need to deal with it as best we can. We need to take action which not only minimises the effects of that purification, the intensity and the range of impact, particularly on local flora and fauna. As many would know, here in Australia, we've at the latest tally, I've heard of figures from 500 million animals that have passed away, that have died as a consequence of these fires, these amazingly violent and out of control fires, up to as many as 8 billion. I certainly hope that's not the case, but here in Australia, it's also a learning opportunity for us. If we have to change the way we live, if we have to change the way that we farm, if we have to change where we are located, then we just simply have to do that. We need to be flexible, and the other thing is we need to be ensuring that we stand up for our rights and stand up to ensure the right investments are put into fire prevention, fire reduction in fuel load and so forth. The traditional methods that the original people have always undertaken here up till, as you'd say, up to a century ago, because those methods were largely stamped out with the over the last 200 years with the advent of European settling in Australia. But those thought leaders in the original people's groups, tribal groups, and elder groups have all of that knowledge and can still share that with us, and they are. I know of several elders stepping forward to provide guidance to those who are listening. This is not about a green movement, although I have nothing against green movement as long as it's truly not about anything but being positive for the environment. But that has to be taken into a balance with what's positive in terms of the energies and the changes needed at a governmental, at an educational, at a health and medicine perspective, science and technology and industry. We have to live here in harmony, and an unbalanced approach which forces one agenda on all is not going to be the right one for us. So we are being given opportunities, what Law of One often quotes as catalyst, opportunities to attain learning, and through that learning to attain better balance. So effectively, moving forward for Australia, what are we going to see? Well, we're going to see more of the same. I would not be surprised if every year from now on we have some degree of high intensity bushfire. And the bushfire is not like we've experienced previously. I know many even that are in the climate skepticism space, and I've been in that arena myself. Many would say, well, these fires are no different to other fires we've had. That's largely true other than the scope and intensity. When we think about the flash point that's reached when eucalyptus trees, which most of Australia are eucalyptus, red gum and hardwood trees, but particularly eucalypts, when eucalyptus oil reaches the vapour point, effectively it evaporates and forms a highly flammable oil-based cloud above the tree canopy. When that is ignited, it travels at hundreds of kilometres an hour, so far quicker than any traditional bushfire, which is lower intensity and usually maintained at or below the 6 foot or 2 metre level. That's what our original people did. They maintained control over the burn to ensure that the flash point for the eucalyptus leaves were not reached. They knew about the sudden onset. They'd experienced that previously, because the one thing that we're dealing with is cycles. This is not the first cycle that's had this type of change for the planet. It's not the first cycle of this type of change for Australia. Looking broader afield, there has been a lot of talk recently, i.e. in the last 24 hours, about simultaneous volcanic eruptions. We're going to have more of that, because the energy fields of the Earth are becoming saturated. And that energy goes in via the poles, the electromagnetic poles, as it hits the ionospheric electromagnetic fields, or the shields, you can think of them that way, of the magnetosphere. And that energy doesn't get repelled, it often gets absorbed, and it then penetrates into the subsurface of the planet in the poles. That energy goes somewhere and does something. Some of it's used for fundamental reconstruction of the interior of the planet. Some of it's used for change to the EM fields themselves. And as you know, the poles themselves are moving. And that requires a large amount of energy modification in terms of energy flows. And that's going to certainly consume a certain amount of energy. But a certain amount of energy goes into a raising of the Schumann resonance fields around the Earth, the Schumann resonance cavity, and that results in Schumann resonance frequencies around the planet, and new frequencies come online and certainly carrying energy and information. But that's not all. At the end, at the coalface, there is energy that's specifically designed to purify. And that is what's happening. and that purification will result in this type of high intensity behaviour. Volcanoes, earthquakes and tremors, high intensity bushfires, very high intensity lightning events, high intensity storm systems, and so in the States, what you'll see coming into the warmer months in spring and summer are, of course, higher prevalence of hurricane, tornado type situations and twisters. Why? Simply because there's more energy in and around the atmosphere and in the seas to propagate those storm systems. So what does this mean for us? What should we be doing? Well, we need to prepare. We need to be practical. We need to not put our head in the sand and say everything is love and light. That is a program as well. We are not to do anything of that nature. What we're meant to do is to work on ourselves, to attain balance locally within ourselves, balance within groups, i.e. families, balance within our local communities, balance within our broader communities, and balance internationally. What can we do if you're listening to this YouTube broadcast? Well, we can make connections, and that's another part that we're meant to be doing right now. We are all wanderers here. We are all from somewhere else originally, or we've been somewhere else. Now's the time for us to start stepping forward and taking action. Let's not wait for others to do the work, because you know what? If we're all thinking that somebody else is going to do the work, it'll never happen. And then we're going to get a very negative outcome. So in moving forward, what I'd like to say for this January 24th transmission is, look, let's move forward. Let's form our action plans. Let's get involved in teaching and learning. Let's not sit back and just be a passive passenger on this journey. Let's be an active participant. And so with that, I will sign off for January 24. I hope everybody has a fantastic day, fantastic evening, fantastic morning, and that you carry positive energy throughout your day. I'll be recording a channeled session with my light team shortly. They have been knocking on the door all day. They have a lot to say. So keep an eye out for that video. It should be up in the next 24 hours. And I also, as I mentioned, I'll be launching in February, a Zoom-based online gathering and really consciousness development team. And there'll be more on that in coming broadcasts. But anybody who's interested in participating, I've got a Zoom license up to 100 participants, and I'd really like for you to participate if you can. And if you're based in Southern Australia, if you're based in Melbourne, why not come around and make contact, and we can share the evening in that way too. So with that, enjoy the rest of your day. Be at peace. Bye-bye.